Welcome to Media Tech Talk. Today we're joined by Tony Abrahams, co-founder and chief executive officer of AI Media. In 2003, when profoundly deaf co-founder Alex Jones asked Foxtel executive Brian Walsh a simple question: why would I pay $100 a month for something I can't understand? It opened the door to AI Media's first client and sparked a movement. Tony has since taken over as CEO and is now leading AI Media into its next chapter as a global pioneer of captioning, translation, and award-winning innovations like Lexi Voice. With offices across Sydney, Melbourne, London, San Francisco, Toronto, Singapore, and beyond, AI Media is transforming how millions of people experience content in real time. Now, they're not just deploying AI for efficiency, they're redefining what accessibility means, making content more inclusive, immediate, and universal.
Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make this recording with Tony, but I'm super interested in hearing what the team at AI Media is doing in AI, and specifically closed captioning, an important area as it relates to the media industry, its evolution, and how we continue to ensure that's an accessible space.
Stay tuned for an inspiring conversation about opportunity, innovation, and inclusion. Tony, I want to take you back to that cocktail party with Australian subscription TV, Foxtel's Brian Walsh. I think it was a Foxtel event. Alex turned to him and asked, why would I pay for something I literally can't understand? That moment has become part of AI Media's origin story. Can you share what it felt like to see an idea and a company spark from such an honest question?
Oh, David, look, that's such a great question. And that takes me back all the way to November 2002. And it actually wasn't a Foxtel event. It was an independent event, but we happened to meet the late Brian Walsh at that event. And Brian said to Alex and I'm the director of television for Foxtel. Do you have Foxtel? And Alex said, well, we do, but I can't watch it. Tony can. I can't hear a thing. and Brian was like, what do you mean? And Alex said, well, I'm deaf and I need captions to understand what's going on television. And there are no captions on Foxtel.
Yeah.
And Brian went, there aren't? Like that was the element of it, right? Like Brian didn't appreciate that there weren't captions on Foxtel at the time.
Yeah.
And Brian said that he would follow up, and he absolutely did. I think the party was on a Saturday, and we got a follow up the following Monday, and we got invited into Foxtel at the Wharf in Piermont, where it was at the time. And we gave a presentation, and that presentation was pretty similar to the pitch that we gave Brian at the cocktail party, which is, well, 1 in 6 people have a hearing impairment. 1 in 4 people speak a language other than English at home. All of these people would prefer to watch television with captions. It's not going to cost you that much.
No, absolutely.
And there's a whole lot of viewers that are going to pay $100 a month if they can understand it.
Yeah. Now, I have to admit, I love watching television with closed captions, and it's easy for me. With a noisy house going on, it gives me the ability to really watch and read at the same time. But I think also closed captioning also gives me the ability to see what's going on in the background, because more often than not, you can't hear what the extras might be saying in the background, but it comes up in closed captioning, which is one of the other value benefits of closed captioning. And I think more and more people that I talk to, and obviously coming into doing this interview with you, I've spoken to a few people, and they were equally sharing stories around how they love watching closed captions as well. And they don't need to; they're quite comfortable with their hearing capabilities, but they provide a value to a lot of people who don't necessarily need to have closed captions, it's got to be a great thing, right?
Yeah, look, and what's interesting, there was actually a very, very famous survey that was done by HP back in 2000, where they basically had a list of 20 things, and they did 3 tests in terms of recall from that list of 20 things. So there were 3 cohorts. One cohort, they read the list of 20 to them. The other cohort, they gave them the list of 20, then took it back. And then the third cohort, They gave them the list, and then they read it to them. And then they tested their recall. How many of the 20 things could you remember? And on average, group 1 got 8 out of 20.
Wow.
Group 2 got 8 out of 20. Group 3 got 16 out of 20.
That's amazing.
What's the difference? Because we are humans. We are born on this planet. We are designed to use all of our senses. We can hear the tiger, smell the tiger, right? The whole thing. And the more that your senses actually align, the better we are at being able to absorb information. So exactly that. Your reading information is just validating what your ears are telling you. And it's your experience of it is you're much calmer.
Yeah.
And that is what we're finding. And the stats prove it. And, you know, we were the launch partner for live captions on Facebook back in 2017.
That's amazing. How do you get into that? Because that's a big deal.
Well, we were the pioneers for live captioning. I mean, with my other profoundly deaf co-founder, the late Leonie Jackson, who was the first deaf CEO of the Deaf Society of New South Wales in 105 years. She also ran the Royal Institute for Deaf and Blind Children for 15 years before joining AI Media. And when she joined AI Media, really and back in 2010, so she was with us from 2010 till 2015. And this was about how do you get deaf kids out of deaf schools? Because deaf kids don't learn anything in deaf schools. And this is someone who was the principal of a deaf school. And all that a deaf kid can't do is hear. So the problem we were trying to solve was, how do you get this visual information in front of the deaf kids in a mainstream school environment so that they could experience what the teacher is saying in the same way that someone who could hear? But what we found, and this back in 2007, when we did this, right? What we found in 2007 was it wasn't just the deaf kids that were watching the captions. They all were.
Yeah.
And now today, David, 86% of 18 to 24-year-olds watch everything with captions. Everything. And it's not because they haven't got good hearing. It's because Facebook introduced automatic captioning on their live feeds very soon after we worked with them to introduce live captioning in 2017. It was in April of 2018 when I went to the Facebook F8 developer conference in Silicon Valley, when they first announced this AI revolution is coming. That was the first I had heard of kind of what was to come with the ChatGPT revolution. And from that point, we knew that the AI that we had developed with Leonie and Alex all those years ago, where we had effectively trained someone to train the AI in real time. So we had, at its peak, over 800 people who would respeak everything that they heard into a speech recognition engine that was uniquely tailored to their individual voice print. And that was what we needed to get 99% accuracy in 2007. Today, we can do that without the human in the loop, and that's been the big transformation.
Now, that goes to a question that's really, I've done a lot of research on what AI Media have been doing, and congratulations, because some of the questions I'm going to ask you, we'll come to those in a moment. But the challenge, I'd imagine, is the accents and the different language formats, the construction of sentences. How is it to get around that with your business in such an articulate format that really prints it up on the screen for everybody to see? You can't make mistakes. It's there for everybody to really judge and score.
That is such a great question. No. It is such a great question. And look, that was probably a key question from 2018 to 2021 that we were trying to solve for. And ultimately, it was solved by making the large language models larger,
Right.
if I can put it that way. So back in 2018, the kind of the way that the technology was operating, you picked a language and an accent. Yeah, so when we trained our respeakers from 2007 all the way through to 2025, I think our last respeaker has just left the business. Those respeakers were effectively using this program called Dragon Naturally Speaking. And people may have heard of it, Dragon Dictate. It was around the Palm Pilot era, if you can kind of remember that.
Actually, I think I do. Yeah, it's a while back now.
2007. And I tell you, from 2007 till 2025, everyone's been saying, when can you take the respeaker out of the loop? And it wasn't until 2018 at that Facebook conference that I really saw a clear path forwards to it. And even so, it still took another 5 years for the automatic captioning to catch up to the human level of captioning. So we could see that it was gonna take over, but still it took 5 years to get there. Now the automatic captioning is better, in the same way that you would probably trust your AI more than you'd trust some random stranger to give you advice that's tailored to you.
And that's the fun part of where we are right now. I literally think back, it's only 2 years ago since I started using something like Adobe Firefly for doing image rendering through their product, and now it's literally everywhere. We've got it in emails, we've got it in our mobile phones to just to make life a lot easier.
Think of AI like water.
Is it? Okay.
Think of it like water. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be free, and everyone is going to get paid based on how they can pump that water to you, or they can pump that AI to you. Yeah. So when you're looking at it in your email, right, it's your whatever email system that you've got, you're subscribing basically to that AI. I mean, I have 9 AI subscriptions.
Yep. Okay.
Personally, I have 9 with 4 different companies.
Yeah, I'm on 3.
With 4 different companies. Now, some of them are hidden, right? Because you go and you get Microsoft Copilot. Well, that's actually a ChatGPT license that sits underneath that, right? And then you've got a Gemini license with your Gmail and all the rest of it. So where I think it helps for investors to really think about where there's sustainable competitive advantage is to look to water. Like water is the thing that we all need the most, and it's free. That's kind of contradictory, right? Yep. Okay. But in the same, and AI is very similar. Like, ChatGPT went down for an hour and a half last week, and I was like, oh my God, how can this happen, right?
Yeah. Well, you'd think that would be fail-safe.
And then I calmed down and I waited an hour and a half and it was fine.
Right.
But, we've become so reliant on something that seemed miraculous just 2 years ago, and the impact of that on the ability to add live AI elements to video, whether that is text or voice or AI to kind of wrap it all around and really give you a coherent view that you can scale and share within your organization.
Yep.
This is now massively, everyone's got to do this, right? And what at AI Media, we're doing it within the infrastructure that we've developed over the Lexi system.
Yeah. I'm going to come into Lexi in a moment, because the product that you've released is absolutely fantastic and is the pillar of where we need to be in today's world of closed captioning. I want to go back to, there's a pivotal point, obviously, where you and Alex left your jobs with no clients back in the day when AI Media was really founded. Now, within days, you were presenting to Foxtel, as you said, and looking back, what was the leap of faith that you felt gave you the courage to build the partnership out? What was it, that moment that you just, what was that magic moment that you felt?
David, it's even better than that. Even better than that. It's even better than that. I quit my job on the Thursday before the Saturday where I met Brian.
Okay. You were
literally
very
walked
confident.
out of a job. I'd literally walked out of a job on the Thursday And then 2 days later, met Brian, and then we went in and gave a presentation on Monday. So I was like,
Wow.
okay, universe, you passed me a ball. There's the try line. I'm going to run for it.
Have I got the timing right? It's now, we're talking 20 years into the future from that moment. Am I right? Is that around about the time?
That was 23 years
23
ago.
years ago. Wow. Okay. And it's a great Australian story as well, where companies can come from just a spark of an opportunity from a simple conversation, which is awesome. Now, I want to also I want to ask you, when you think about Alex's role in sparking this journey, how does his perspective continue to shape AI Media's purpose today?
Oh, there is no doubt that without that initial conversation, AI Media wouldn't have existed. And Alex worked with the business for many years, and actually served in a latter role as brand ambassador before we successfully helped to lobby for the National Disability Insurance Scheme. And then when that got up in, I think it was 2012, Alex actually left the business and moved into government. And so we had to keep very, very strict lines, obviously, after that point. But it was my other co-founder, Leonie Jackson, whose absolute brilliance then kind of took over, and her understanding of being an educator of deaf kids, as well as being an administrator of a very large education system, really gave us the insights to know what it was that we needed to build in terms of the product. And what's very interesting is that AI Live, which is our product on how the students would view the captions. Leonie designed that user interface in 2010. And we launched that actually with John Howard, who actually launched it for us, because he was deaf as well, and so he was. And actually,
are we talking? Sorry, John Howard. Are we talking former Prime Minister or actor?
Former Prime Minister.
Yeah,
former
right.
Prime Minister.
I didn't realize.
He's deaf. He wears hearing aids, and it's not a secret, but he obviously didn't broadcast it kind of to everyone. But that's a large reason why Australia has really good legislation for covering for people with hearing loss. So we enacted our core legislation in the year 2000, and the relevant legislation in the EU was just passed in June this year, 25 years later. And I think that's also helped us as AI Media go from being an Australian business to being a global business, because we had a bit of a head start in terms of a regulatory framework in Australia that was then going to get rolled out globally. And then we had the benefit that when it did get rolled out globally, we didn't have the scaling constraints that we had when we still needed respeakers.
Now, it's probably going to, this is a nice segue into an area I wanted to get into, market drivers and regulation. The European Accessibility Act, the EAA, has largely played very well for AI Media and the timing. Do you want to take me through a little bit of that and how that's helped shape the company and where it's going?
Yeah, I mean, the pivotal moment for AI Media was really our acquisition of the EEG business, which was a US-based technology hardware business in 2021. And they manufacture things called encoders. And an encoder is a very generic term, but effectively what an encoder does is it plugs into the live video source that is coming from from any kind of broadcaster, government or enterprise, or Zoom as we're using today, or anything. And the fundamental thing it does is it stops 99% of the bandwidth going through it.
Right.
Why does it do that? Because we're in the business of live.
Right. Yep.
And if you want to send your partner an image and you want them to receive it quickly, you'll send them a thumbnail. You won't send them the high definition image. That's the same thing.
Right.
We need to, so the thinner the bandwidth, the quicker the response. The quicker the response, the better the quality.
Yep. But
because if I'm talking to you right? And I want to read those captions. It's really important that I read those captions half a second faster.
Yeah.
If I'm going to catch up. And then when it comes to voice translation, that's even more important. Because if we're going to have a real-time voice conversation, it can't be 30 seconds delayed.
Yeah.
If you point that fire hose of data at an API that has the speech-to-text translation engine on it that Google use or Apple use or whoever use, it's just going to take 30 seconds for it to respond, because you're sending it this fire hose of data and it goes calculating. So actually what we do is we stop all the video. The speech to text engine doesn't need video. It needs audio. And it needs the context of what that audio relates to. And the context of what that audio relates to is in our customers' media asset management systems. And this is something that we built pre-EEG acquisition when we were using respeakers, a deep integration with all of our customers' media asset management systems so that we could automate the delivery of the materials to the respeakers in advance so they knew what was coming up.
Wow, that's quite a lot to coordinate.
We spent a lot of money between 2010 and 2020 on building the technology system. I think over that 10 years, it was over $40 million.
Wow. So what do you focus on? The people element obviously is really important. At that point, AI wasn't really taking shape to make it commercial or the way that we use it today.
No, it was. It just was over the horizon.
Yeah.
Right? We always knew that the respeakers were an intermediate position. We just didn't know whether it was going to be 2015, 2025, 2035.
Yep. Okay. So you could see this happening on the horizon, but you had to mitigate that time. That's a big risk, knowing that you've got this technology which is largely going to keep humans in the loop. I suppose there's going to be an element of where we need to keep people in AI. But you also know that you've got an investment that you have to make in the meantime. That's a big drop of money into an ocean that you know is going to be changing relatively soon, in 5 to 10 years. So how do you feel about making big decisions like that, knowing that's where the end outcome's going to be?
You know what? I just had Blockbuster and Netflix in my head the whole time.
Okay, tell me more. Why Blockbuster and Netflix?
I mean, I think it was the year 2000 when Blockbuster almost bought Netflix and then didn't, right? And it's like, I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
So we bought EEG effectively at that same point in time. And what did we do? We looked at the world and we went, well, the world's now going to change. It's not going to change tomorrow, but it will change in the next 5 years completely. And it has. We've gone from having a human in the loop of 100% of our sessions to now having a human in the loop for 0.1% of our sessions. We still have it for 0.1% of our sessions. But that's going to be zero in December. And that's because the AI is now better than humans at just about everything. And it's only going to keep getting better as long as you can serve it up the right information. And so our job as leaders of a technology business is to set the framework for what's going to succeed in 2030, 2040, and 2050. When you look at the great examples of the hyperscalers of Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, Meta, they're now 20 plus years old, all of them. And what have they done well? What they've done well is they've evolved their technology, but they've kept a focus on the user experience. And the user experience for us is not the user experience of the respeaker. And that was something that was very challenging for people in our organization, because when 90% of your staff are respeakers and you're about to make all of them redundant in the next few years, the question is, how do you deliver that message?
And how did you deliver that message? What was your thinking, and how did you manage that?
I copped a fair bit of flack, but I did it at the 2021 Christmas party.
Oh, great. That would have gone down like a...
Why did I do it at the Christmas party? Because it was COVID. COVID had just ended. It was the only time we had everyone together. And I promised everybody that I would tell them when they needed to think about a new career change. And that gave everyone 4 or 5 years to retool.
Okay. So it wasn't like next week you guys have got no work. You gave them a lengthy period.
No. We said, well, I just said within the next 3 years, your job will be redundant.
Yeah. And
my job was to tell you so that you had enough time to go and make alternative plans. And the great news is a dozen of those respeakers are now in technology roles with us because they took that opportunity to retool. Many others have gone on to other jobs, right? Yeah. And I think that, what we need to understand as well is that no organization is in it for the benefit of the employees. It's in it for the benefit of the customers. And when technology changes, you've just got to be ruthless as to how you restructure your organization. So we went for a deep dive. We went deep dive into technology and said to everyone, our respeaker model is going to zero back in 2021 when it still had $60 million of revenue. Yeah, and everyone panicked and our share price collapsed by 80%. But, it's recovering.
And you've done well. Look, I think from the public reports that you've got listed, because you're a publicly listed company on the ASX, right? With ASX code, which is pretty cool. AIM. You've done an amazing job as a CEO to bring the company around from its revenue report to where it is now and where it's going to be in 2029. Are you comfortable talking about that? Because I think that's a champion moment, as you've demonstrated with the business coming out of a very human-led business or to now being technology-led. How have you managed that, and what's been the secret, if you want, to making that happen?
Such a great question. So many layers.
Yeah.
Sitting next to the technology team in New York for months on end is what I needed to do. So I spent most of 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025 in New York, sitting next to the team that had built these hardware devices, who knew how the software worked, and talking to customers, right? Like we acquired EEG, we acquired a $10 million hardware business, which had an 80% market share in its only market, which was North American broadcast. And we said, we can grow that. And a lot of people went, how? You got 80% market share already and it's $10 million and you're in the largest market in the world. And we said, well, that's all hardware. We're going to put software over the top of it in terms of Lexi Text, Lexi Voice, and Lexi AI. And 4 years later, we've gone from 10 million in tech revenue to 41.1 million in tech revenue, still 80% in North America.
That's amazing.
And so, we've proven that. And what we've also done is we've demonstrated the capability to take what was a technology that only worked in North America and make it work in other places around the world.
I mean, Korean night, and you can listen to the game in the ballpark in Korean.
We broadcast Lexi Voice over the infrastructure in the baseball stadium so that people could listen in English or Korean.
So tell me about that, because that's different to having closed captions.
No, Lexi. This is Lexi Voice.
Yeah,
and
correct.
We're saying Lexi Voice is 30 times the market opportunity of Lexi Text because we're not typing to each other right now, David. We're talking to each other. People like talking to each other, and they also like being able to talk in their own language and listen in their own language.
The other things that we can do with Sound System Live and AI Media is with the different languages that are offered now. Fans of the sports are worldwide. But if we can't speak their language, they're not going to make that communication happen. If we're able to communicate to them in their language, it means more to them as a sense of community.
Fans, we now welcome our DCU Royal Wooters members of the game, the Stoles family, Carolyn, Patty, and Hank.
DCU 로얄 루터를 환영합니다. 게임의 멤버들, 스톨츠 가족 캐롤린, 패티, 행크 더 스톨츠는
And that's what Lexi Voice allows. It's literally the Babel fish of, I think that was also something that Apple have said that their new AirPods are,
Yes.
Which do exactly the same thing.
Yep. From a consumer point, but you're talking professional, and there's
we're talking professional, right? So if you, to be clear, we are not reinventing any core technology that isn't out there. We're applying that to business workflows in a live environment. So for example, Sunrise on Channel 7, right? It's a 3-hour program. It's actually not a 3-hour program. It's 133 distinct program segments.
Right.
Each one of which has a different dictionary. So when we go to Brisbane traffic, we basically treat it like a jukebox, and we kind of slot in the Brisbane traffic names for 45 seconds, then we pull them out, and then we stick in the sport. And then we stick that out, and then we go to news, and that's a different one. And then we've got Koshi on the couch, and that's different again, but they're the same every single day.
Yep.
And so what you need to do is you need to orchestrate how you're actually serving up that information so that any point in time, even if it's just a 30-second grab, the system knows exactly what the context is, and it knows that that context can change 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. If you want to try and get your ChatGPT to kind of make sense of a continuous run of a program with 133 different segments, it will overfit, right? It will try to connect things that are unconnected to each other, and it will get it wrong. So what we actually need to do is we need to understand how these systems work in the background and then serve up the inputs to make them perform much better than they otherwise would as a pure API. And part of it is live, so stopping the bandwidth. Part of it is sitting behind the customer firewall, so we have access to all of their data. And part of it is that we have first best access to the data because the fire hose plugs straight into the encoder.
Yep.
And just like, those famous stories of those people in Chicago who got very rich by getting closer and closer to the exchange so that they knew exactly, who was on the buy and sell before they could do it. It's the same thing. There's a benefit in being closest to the data. Yep. And so those three things together really package up what we think is a winnable formula as you pull the human out of the loop.
Yep. Now, I'm going to go back to, let's just have a run through on what Lexi Captioning Voice and AI is, because I think I might have jumped ahead on some of the exciting topic points that you've given us access to, and I do appreciate your time to take us through those. But if you've gone through Lexi Captioning, Lexi Voice, and Lexi AI, what's been some of the challenges to bring those to market, to bring the trust that people need to have in a product? Marketing, obviously, I've gone through and had a look on your website, and on the American Stock Exchange, there's a lot of PR that goes to build trust in a business like this. What is it that you do as a CEO to make sure that all happens, to bring the harmony together, and the three products? What's the sort of the journey to bring those to life? How do you do that?
That's still ahead of us, David, because at the moment, the 41.1 million that we've grown from 10 million is just Lexi Text.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't sold a thing yet on Lexi Voice, but we think Lexi Voice will be 30 times the market opportunity of Lexi Text. So Lexi Text is already delivering 24 million a year in revenue for us, up from 800,000 4 years ago.
That's a really big jump for anyone.
And it's only the US broadcast market and so to say we're going to go from 10 to 41 in 4 years and then go from 41 to 150 in the next 4 years, we're just keeping going.
Yeah.
And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are delivering for our customers, that the specific requirements of each particular customer setup are well understood, and that we can continue to grow the available pool of formats and standards for which Lexi Voice and Lexi Text will work. So I said, David, when we acquired EEG in 2021, it only worked in the US and Canada. It took us 18 months to get it working in one other country. One. Took us 6 months to get it working in the second other countries. So that was 2 years, right? 4 years later, we're in 39 countries.
Right.
So we've broken the back of that.
Are we looking at a practice makes perfect sort of model where you've got the
we're
model
looking
right?
at the fact that there are core broadcasting standard differences that needed to be overcome between the US and the rest of the world first.
Yeah.
So,
and are you finding the broadcasters coming to you now, or are you still on the door on the footpath knocking on doors to get the intro?
No, US broadcasters come to us.
Yeah.
Everybody else, we have to knock on doors.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? So the US broadcasters are spending more with us, like 4 times more with us than they were spending 4 years ago. But they're saving on average $3 to $5 million because they're not using human captioners from one of our competitors.
Yep. Yep. And obviously you've got the requirements around regulation for accessibility across digital media now as well. So I go back to the point.
Well, in the US, you do. You have that in the US, and I said that the legislation in Australia came in 2000. The legislation in the US came in 1989, which was the Americans with Disabilities Act. So America is actually way ahead of the rest of the world on accessibility. Partly it's because they have the largest and best organized deaf community in the world. Whereas in the UK, they've got a very good blind community. And so audio description is much more prevalent in the UK than it is in the US. Even though there's more blind people in the US, it's just that that's not the way the legislation worked based on who was the most effective lobbyer.
Tony, sounds like an amazing story. How do you balance the need to keep innovating quickly and with the responsibility of delivering services to millions that depend on this daily? Because it's a big responsibility. Where's your mindset there?
You have to walk and chew gum, and you have to have people who are responsible for each. You can't have someone responsible for both, because that's too much of a context switch. So you basically have to make sure that you've got resourcing there for, call it the 5 different elements of product development, which is basic infrastructure, all the way through to a brand new product. And then in between, I've got a new feature for an existing product, right? Or I've got a better way of integrating it with the other products, or I've got a better way to automate it, right, through the system. And you need, on all 5 of those layers, different people working on all of it simultaneously, and then you have to bring it together. Now, Lexi AI is the system think of it as a wrapper around a ChatGPT or a Gemini or something like that, right? But it's embedded in the totality of the organization in AI media. So we're doing what we call dogfooding this product for a year before we're releasing it in April. It's not released yet. Like Lexi AI we will release in April in Las Vegas, but we're using it internally. And how we use it internally is we take every customer meeting, we record every customer meeting, we pass it through Lexi AI, and at the end of every week we go, what happened? How do we go and sequence this? How do we go, right? And the AI comes up with a coherent list of, here's the 3 key things that you need to do, and here's the 5 dot points, and here are the people who you need to assign responsibility to do it. And we have a meeting every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. because it's an equally terrible time for everyone around the world. And that's when our executive sales leadership team reviews all the data from the previous week. And it is night and day compared to what we were able to do before Lexi AI. It is night and day.
That's amazing. Absolutely.
And that is not going to be expensive product, right? It's just going to be a wrapper around the ChatGPT. It's going to be a per seat, per license fee, right? Just as you're paying $45 to a month to Microsoft for a Copilot license, it's going to be a similar fee. But it will make Lexi Voice and Lexi Text so much more valuable that you'd be an idiot not to buy Lexi AI.
Okay. All right. Now, finally, if you could leave our audience with one hopeful message about inclusion and innovation, something that they'll carry into their work and lives, what would that be?
Well, I'll quote Leonie on this, the late Leonie Jackson, because Leonie grew up deaf in Bundaberg. and never met another deaf person until she went to university in Brisbane, and then went on to become the preeminent scholar and leader in terms of deaf education in Australia. But it was when Leonie saw in those first pilots at Robert Townsend High School in Western Sydney that it wasn't just Lisa and Rabia who were our deaf kids who were watching the captions. It was all the kids who were watching the captions. She was like, accessibility benefits everyone.
Love that. Yeah. I've had the wonderful opportunity to meet Leonie, and what an inspiration she is. I want to say that in the present tense because she continues to inspire us still. And I think that's just a wonderful tribute to somebody who is just so wonderfully beautiful and has contributed.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I just want to build on that, right? Because Leonie's belief was that access to communication should never be a privilege. And that conviction is alive in every product we ship today.
That's amazing. That's very cool. Tony Abrahams, co-founder, CEO of AI Media, thank you so much for your time on the show. And we will be watching very closely to see how your career and the company progresses over the next few years into the future. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, David. And I'd be delighted to come back and report back on the next exciting chapter.
I will keep you to that, Tony. Thank you. That was Tony Abrahams of AI Media, a leader whose journey reminds us that one honest question asked at the right time can spark a global movement. So next time you watch live TV, join a global conference, or hear stadium announcements, consider the invisible AI, making it accessible. And then ask yourself, where else in our daily lives is this revolution about to unfold?
Now, I hope everyone enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Media Tech Talk.
Over 70% of the world's population speaks more than one language, yet 80% of online content is still inaccessible to non-native speakers. Lexi Voice empowers you to expand your market reach, grow your audience, and increase revenue. Ready to connect with the world? Visit AI Media's website and experience Lexi Voice today.